Harlow James. Welcome to Book Club.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I am so delighted to have you here. We met for the first time last year at a meet and greet cute, and I just adored every moment that we got to spend together. So I'm so glad we're doing
Aw,
this.
same. I know.
Especially before we reunite once again later
Yes.
this month at a meet and greet cute. So anyone who's going to
Yes.
be there, keep an eye out for both of us. I'm so grateful that you are joining us on Book Club. We were just talking before we pressed record. You keep the girls fed when it comes to releases. So we have plenty to talk about. But before we
Yes.
get into all of that, I would love to hear, as I always open my episodes, how did you get into reading and how did you get into writing?
So I loved to read when I was a kid. And then, when you get into school and you have to read stuff that, you don't necessarily want to read, it kind of takes the fun out of it. So I didn't read a lot throughout high school and college, mostly because I didn't have time to. I found reading again in 2018, and it was actually right after I had lost my grandma. So I was very close with my grandma. And she was just such a creative soul and artistic and just and things that I would not consider myself at all. But so losing her was really hard. And so I kind of disassociated a little bit, and I found a distraction in romance novels. I picked up Driven by Christy Bromberg because Passion Flix was turning it into a movie, and I had just found Passion Flix, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Okay, I want to see this movie, but I feel like I need to read the book first, right? So I read the book. And then it just spiraled from there. And so I was a voracious reader for about a year. And then in early 2019, I was like, you know what? I could write a book, and it had always been a thing in the back of my head. I want to write a book someday. I think that'd be really cool. It's like a bucket list item, because a lot of people don't do that. And so I got an idea for a book and I sat down with one of my best friends at the time, and I was talking to her about it, and I started plotting stuff out, and then I just started writing, and it was trash, it was nothing compared to what I put out now. But it was so fun. And I got this high that I had never had before because I'd never considered myself a creative person,
Sure.
I taught high school math for 17 years. So normally, if you're really good at math, you're not so great at English, but I've always kind of been strong in both. So I wrote that first book, and then I had kind of already planned that there was going to be two other couples from that book. And so I wrote the next, and I just kept going and I just kept going. And then COVID hit. And so as a teacher, I was home, and that first part, I didn't have anything to do because we didn't know what the heck was going on. So I wrote 7 books in 2020.
Wow.
I was a woman obsessed.
Yes.
And then I just kept going and going. So it started as a hobby. And then in 2022, 2023, I started to actually make some money, and I was gaining some readers, and some fans and stuff. And so I was like, you know what? I'm investing a lot of time and energy into this. I should probably start treating it more like a business,
Sure.
and really looking at what I'm doing. And so once I started doing that, everything just kind of evolved, and then in October of 2024, I attended a conference for romance authors that completely changed my life. It was everybody showed me that I had all the pieces to this puzzle. I just figured out how to put them together. And that I left that conference and I came home and I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to do this full time and I'm going to quit teaching. And he was like, okay, let's do it,
Yeah.
And so here I am a year and a half later. I just finished teaching, and now I'm a full-time author. So yeah, it's crazy how, and I like to say that my grandma gave me this through her death, you know what I mean? And so instead of it being this really sad thing, of course, obviously I miss her dearly. It's been 8 years.
Of course.
But I am so grateful to her, and I feel like she's with me, as I'm, kicking butt and taking names. And
of course. Oh, what a blessing and what a gift. And yes, you just finished up your final school year. What has that felt like to kind of, you kind of touch on it of this big moment. Is this what you always wanted to do? Did you like balancing teaching and writing? Like, what has that been like?
Teaching was like the only thing I ever wanted to do when I was little.
Yeah,
I like at 5 years old, I was like, I'm going to be a teacher, and that was it. So it's been hard, like kind of shedding that identity,
yeah,
and giving myself permission to, like, that's been
sure.
really interesting. The end of the school year was wild. I didn't get to finish the way that I wanted to. I got viral vertigo at the end
Oh
of May.
no.
Oh yeah, no, it was weird. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I was
Yeah,
like down for like a week. So I missed like
goodness.
an entire whole week of the school year in May.
Yeah,
Um, and so when I finally had my last day, like it was emotional, like
sure.
it was hard turning in my keys, and I only worked at one school for 17 years. So
Wow. Mhm.
that, yeah, like that has been, it's weird. But like I said before we started recording, I don't think it's really hit me yet because
Sure.
I'm normally on summer vacation right now.
Yep.
So once August comes around, I think it'll kind of hit me a little bit more. But once after my last day, I was trying to play catch up from all of the stuff that I couldn't do while I was like
Yeah.
bedridden for a week and a half. So it took me like a couple weeks before I finally felt like relief, like I could
Sure.
breathe,
Yep.
and so now I'm just kind of like, holy crap, this is my life, like
Yeah.
I'm still adjusting to it, and I have a really big release coming this week. So
Yes.
it's, yeah, I don't know. I'm just along for the ride right now.
I
Like, I'm
love
just
that. You're just
living
kind of
every
like
day.
go, go, go mindset. I
Yep.
feel like you and I are similar in that way for sure. You just did your official kind of identity face reveal. How has that
Yeah.
been to be sort of a faceless account and entity in business and kind of go face forward? What have you had any thought processes behind that?
So when I started writing, I knew that I was going to use a pen name because
Mhm.
of my day job, because I taught high school, And so I was like, I do not need my students finding this. I don't want this to jeopardize
No.
my day job, especially because it was just a hobby starting out.
Sure.
I didn't show my face for the first time until like late 2020. I did a
Mhm.
takeover on like a Bookstagrammer's account at the
Sure.
time. And so I was like, well, it's on her page. It's not on
Yep.
my page. So it's probably okay. And so
Yeah.
then I like showed my face in my stories for a little bit,
Hmm.
but not all the time. So like some
Right.
people have seen my face, and then if I've met them at signings and stuff, and
Yep.
I'd always tell them like, if you tag me in pictures, like that's fine, but don't be offended. I'm going to hide it from my profile because I just don't want the association, with the two names. So I made it 7 years without any students finding out, which I thought was pretty
Amazing.
freaking
Yeah.
amazing.
That's unreal.
But so, like I show my face in my newsletter, I show my
Sure.
face in my Facebook group and stuff, but those are like more entities that I control,
Yeah.
So I decided I was going to get headshots done. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
like this is my
There's
job now. Yep, I need like my like coming out post. And
yeah.
so me and my social media girl were like strategizing on like how to do it, and
Amazing.
so that was fun. It was crazy. Like, I don't know if it's really hit me yet. I'm waiting for
Sure.
the first DM from like a former student. That's what I and
Just
they're going to be
holding
like,
tight.
this is da, 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 oh my God.
Amazing. That's gonna be
That's
so
what I'm
fun.
waiting for. Then it'll be real.
For sure. It is bound to happen, I feel
It's
like.
going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to,
That's so
yeah.
did anyone know when you were leaving teaching that that's where you were heading, or was it just
Yes.
on to the next adventure? Okay.
Yeah, no. Well, a lot of my coworkers have known that I've written for
Okay.
years. Some of my coworkers read my books. One of my
Amazing.
former coworkers is on my ARC team, like she's
Stunning.
a sweetheart, and super supportive. And so, yeah, there was a lot of people who knew.
Hmm.
But then there was other people who started finding out because people have big mouths. And so,
Sure.
like by the end of the school year, there was a teacher who actually said something to a student that I'm leaving
Oh,
teaching to write books and that my books are inappropriate. And so I had to go and confront this man. I didn't even know who he was. Like I work at
wow.
it was a really big school. So there's like 100+ teachers.
Sure.
And so like I knew the name, but like I didn't know his face. And I was like, who is this guy? Like to just go around and like say something like that to a student. So like I had to go and like confront him. That was a whole thing. But like at that point I was so close to being done. I was like, you know what, the kids are gonna find out eventually
Sure.
anyway. Like I can't control this.
Yep.
um but yeah, I'm really curious to see.
Just looking
like
forward
what
to the
happens
plot.
in the next coming months.
Yes. Oh
And
my
you know,
gosh. That's so
I'm
funny.
an adult woman. I'm almost 39. Like,
You can do whatever
I
you
have
want.
2 kids. I can do whatever I
Oh my
want.
gosh. That's so funny. And of course it was a man. It had to have been a man.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
That's so funny. So what is your process looking like now that you're in the summer months and now just going to be doing this full time? We talked at the top of the episode and before we started recording, you keep the people fed every 90 days. You have a
Yes.
book coming for them. What is your overall writing process like? Do you write quite a bit in a day? What is your commitment like? All that good stuff.
So one of the first questions that like people were asking me when I knew that I was going to do this full time was like, are you going to write more books? Are you going to write faster? And I was like, no, I don't want
No.
to because I want to know what this feels like without having to work a day job in the background.
Yeah.
Like I want to be able to just write on a day, whatever flows, like I try really hard to hit a set like word count when I'm
Sure.
writing a book every day. But I don't want to put any more pressure on myself. My system works really well, and again, like it meets reader expectations. Like my
Totally.
readers have expected to have a book from me every 90 days, and so it
Amazing.
allows me to stay ahead enough to do simultaneous audio release, which is really important for me. And I
Yes.
know readers appreciate as well.
Yes.
So um, right now, I'm actually working on some rewrites on my October release before I send it to
Great.
my editor this week. And then I'm going to start writing my next book next week after
Gosh.
my release. So I'm a plotter. I have to know what are my tropes, what are my character
Yeah.
arcs, what's going to be my third act conflict, like I have to know that stuff going into a book.
Sure.
And so once I do, then I know the beginning and I know the end, and then I kind of fill in the middle as I go,
I love that.
yeah. So I have a process. Some books are really easy. Some books are not. Like this book one that I'm rewriting some stuff on right now has been challenging, but it's a book
Sure.
one. It's a new world, and so like you got to make sure like all the pieces fit together and
Right.
that it's strong, and the world building has been really fun with this one because I think
Yeah.
I've invested more time in that than I
Love
had
that.
in past series. So
Amazing. Well,
yeah.
that's so exciting. I always ask, and it sounds like it might be a little bit of the in between, because you have your plots kind of set. Do your characters tell you about themselves, or do you tell the characters about themselves? Do you kind of, when it comes
I
to their
think it's a little bit of
personalities?
both
Hmm.
sometimes, especially because like I think I'll know what a character's story is going to be. And then once I start writing, I'm like, ooh, you know what? That doesn't fit. So
Sure.
actually, with my new series, the last book, I thought I knew what it was going to be. And then I was writing book one and I was like, oh, no, no, no. This is what
Everything.
that character's story is going to be.
Yeah.
But like with the last book in a series, it's easier to do that.
Sure.
Like with the first couple books, you got to really have stuff like nailed down.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it just depends. Every book is different. Like you
Yeah.
can't expect one to be as easy as the others.
How is that navigating as a type A person? Because
Very
I
hard.
am very similar to you, where it's just like, why is it not just da 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 da
Yeah,
da?
yeah.
Like,
But you know what? I appreciate the fact that like I've written 34 books now. Okay.
yeah,
And throughout that, I've learned that each process is different. And so I
sure.
think it's helped me alleviate some of that pressure that I put
Yeah,
on myself as a type A person to be like, no, this book is going to need a different energy level. This book is going to need a
sure,
different level of detail, and stuff. And so, but I think that's what helps keep the creative process
for
interesting to
sure.
me because writing a book is a very like structured process if you
Sure.
allow it to be like I make my writing a structured process,
Right.
but then I also get to experience that like twists and turns and the surprises along the way like as I'm writing, and so that's what keeps it interesting for me too.
I love that.
And
I'm the
picking
type of
stories and tropes that like I haven't written before, that's always fun.
sure. Sure. That I mean, I can only imagine that keeps things so much more fresh. I'm the type of person that's like, I'll go with the flow if I know where the flow is, what time the flow
Yeah.
is happening, who's going to be at the flow, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So I can only imagine. Speaking of tropes,
Mhm.
with having released so many incredible stories, I'm sure you've gotten to hit on most because tropes
Mhm.
just are naturally occurring in books, but
Yeah.
we're really leaning into them on the marketing end. But
Yes.
what is your favorite trope to write? A trope you'll never write, and a trope you're dying to write.
So I love a fake anything, fake
Mhm.
engagement, fake dating, like anything fake
Amazing.
is one of my favorite things to write. And my book that comes out on Friday is a fake engagement. And oh my God, it was so much fun.
Love it.
So I love a fake dating. I love a marriage of convenience, which
Oh,
I
classic.
is my first book in my new series. So that is always a winner for me. And anything enemies to lovers is just so fun. I love the
So good.
banter. I love making the like all the tension build and then it snaps, like that's so fun.
Phenomenal.
I don't want to say that there's a trope that I wouldn't ever write because
Yeah.
I feel like there's like when I write, I usually incorporate themes or stuff that's like maybe happening in my life a little bit
Sure.
into my books,
Hmm.
and so I think that's part of what's fun about writing is that you don't really have a limitation necessarily to what you can write.
Yep.
I'm not a huge age gap fan. I will
Okay.
say that. So age gap is not my favorite. I'll read it, but I just don't know if I could write it and like
Yeah.
do it justice. Never say never though. Like there may come a day where that is the correct trope for some
Sure.
characters. I am dying to write mafia. I have this like
Yeah.
idea, okay, because I love that's what I like tend to gravitate towards reading,
Sure.
especially because it's not small town, which is what I write,
Yeah.
and so it's so different. I'm reading actually a Natalie Kane book right now. It's
Oh,
my
no.
first, and it's so good. So I have this like bucket list item, like one
Yeah.
day start a pen name as like a mafia romance
Amazing.
author and write mafia just to do it for myself.
In all your free time now.
I mean, we'll see.
That's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. Speaking of your small town settings, what inspires all of your different towns? They're perfectly cohesive in the sense that you know what you're going to get from a Harlow James book, but they're not like bleeding together in the sense where it's like, oh my gosh, we were just in Carrington Cove, and is it the same as Blossom Peak? Like, I feel like they're very beautifully differentiated. How do you do that?
Very intentionally, honestly, because I know as a reader, and this is my own like insecurity coming out too. Blossom Peak, for instance, has been so phenomenal for me as both an author, a businesswoman, but like my readers have just loved it, and I loved it. I'm very,
Yeah.
I loved being in that world. Like it was so fun. But I when I plotted that series, I intentionally wanted it to feel different than Carrington Cove because my readers loved Carrington Cove.
Sure.
And so I really tried to make sure that my towns stand out individually so that readers can't compare the two as much. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because from a reader standpoint, it's like, oh, I like this, but it's not da 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 da,
Yep.
and I want them to be like, you know what? Yeah, it's not da 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 da, but that's a good thing because it's its own thing. And so I really try to have kind of like an epicenter or like a theme in each town that makes it stand on its own. Carrington Cove, I loved because it was this small coastal town and the businesses were so prominent in all of the stories. And the Carrington Cove Games was like the
Yes.
thing that like brought the town together.
Yep.
And so that was a big theme throughout that town. And then Blossom Peak, the heart of the town was the winery. And so there's this winery that um, there's a brother and sister, their parents founded the winery, and that's their family's winery. And so that was kind of like the epicenter of the town, and everything kind of revolved around that. And so with my new series, that's coming out in October. It's called Garnet Valley, and it's in Tennessee. It's in the Great Smoky Mountains, and
Okay.
the epicenter of the town is a community college, and that is actually something from where I live. So I live in this area in Southern California, and we have a community college that is very prominent and feeds the entire area. And I mean, if you talk to people around our town and stuff, I mean, almost everybody has a connection to the community college in some way.
Sure.
And I also thought that it would be really fun to kind of bring in a college dynamic to a small town,
Sure.
but also because then the characters don't have to be college aged, because you have people from all walks of life that go to colleges, to a community college, you know? And so that's been really fun to play around with. And again, making it feel different from everything else.
Sure.
That's really important for me because I want the series to stand on its own.
I love that. I just feel you've done such a phenomenal job with that. How do you pick your locations as a Tennessee girl? I love hearing that we're heading to Tennessee, but how do you pick all of your locations? Because they're kind of far from home.
Well, I live in Southern California, and so like small towns in California are not as prominent, you know, like I know California. But so I love, I don't know, I have like visions in my head of like Carrington Cove, I knew was always going to be in North Carolina, you know, and I actually had the idea for Carrington Cove back in like 2020, 2021.
Oh, wow.
And then I wrote half of the first book, but like I was having issues with it. And so I left it behind and I went to write something else.
Yeah. And
then I went back to it and everything like clicked.
Amazing.
So I think it more depends on like what's the word? The climate I'm looking for, you know,
sure,
like, do I want the mountains? Do I want the ocean? Do I want, you know,
vibe?
Yeah, like that kind of vibe that I'm into. I love a coastal town because obviously you have the ocean and I love the ocean. And so like that was really easy to do. But now I don't know, I was in Carrington Cove and then it was in North Carolina, and then Blossom Peak was still in North Carolina, but it was in like the mountains. Right. And then I just kind of like hopped over to the next mountain. I don't know. It just, why not? Wherever the wind takes me.
Amazing. Did you visit these places at all, or are you doing research?
I didn't visit North Carolina before I started writing Carrington Cove, but then in the middle of writing that series, I visited South Carolina, which I had never been to before. And it was like, and I know they're pretty similar, you know, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly like how I imagined it. So yeah, like obviously I do research beforehand, but like being there was amazing. And then I actually went to Tennessee back in April. It was for a funeral for my uncle, but I used it as an opportunity to do some research too. So to kind of get the vibe and like, what does it look like? And what does it feel like, you know, and all this stuff. So,
amazing.
Now that I am writing full time, I plan to go places and research.
Business expense.
Exactly.
I love that. That's amazing. Switching gears just a little bit, I'd love to talk about audio. You never fail to provide absolutely phenomenal audiobooks with amazing narration partners. Are you an audiobook girly?
Yes. And I wasn't. And so when I decided to start investing in audio, it was a big gamble for me. I did a bunch of my backlist and I released nothing but audiobooks for 6 months in 2024. Yeah, it was really scary. And even my husband was like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yes, but I'm going to do it right. So I did a lot of research and I talked to a lot of audio listeners. And I was like, what do you look for? What sells an audiobook to you? You know, like it's the narrator that sells an audiobook. It's not necessarily the author, you know? And so I knew it was really important to invest in quality narration. But I also didn't just want to pick people because, you know, everybody loves Teddy Hamilton. Sure. I know that, but is Teddy right for the character? Like that is my ultimate goal, is like, is this voice, is this person right for the character? And I really think that that's what makes a great audiobook.
Yeah.
And so once I dipped my toes into that and I did all of those audiobooks for 6 months, it allowed me to do a simultaneous release for the first book in Carrington Cove. So that was my first simultaneous audio release. And it's such a game changer, you know, from a business perspective, but also from a reader perspective. Readers were like, oh my God, thank you. You know, like this is fantastic. Yeah. And so I have had nothing but simultaneous audio releases since mid
Amazing.
2024. Yeah. And again, that's something now that my readers expect from me, and I want to deliver that. But
Sure.
also remaining true to the characters. Like I want the voices to fit the character. And this book that comes out on Friday, oh my God, the two narrators, James Cassidy and Molly Stark, were
Oh,
just phenomenal. They were
love it.
so freaking good and perfect for these characters. So the audio is like one of my favorites. It's
Amazing. I
so
love to
good.
hear that. They're just always hits. And I just with the love and care you put into audio, I'm like, certainly she has to be an audiobook girl. And you and I talked
Yeah.
before we started recording. My single most asked about thing on my shelves are my audiobook shelf trophies of Carrington
Mm-hmm.
Cove. Can you talk about those for a moment? Because everyone's always asking.
Yeah. I came up with this idea. I wanted something because I invested all this time and energy in audio. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, like this is going to be like a huge part of my business and my readership, you know? And so I was like, what could I make for audiobook listeners as like trophies for their shelves, you know, because a lot of people buy paperbacks as like their shelf trophy, right?
Yep.
Like you read the ebook, but like you want the paperback on your shelf, okay?
Yep.
So, I thought about like collectibles, you know, and like something that would represent like listening, you know, and I was like, oh, vinyl records. Like, how cool would it be to have like a little vinyl record for the audiobook? So you can't fit an entire audiobook on a vinyl record because it's not big enough. So what I did was the first kiss scene on one side and the first spicy scene on the other side. And so they do play on a record player.
Yes, they do.
And yes. And I love them. I wish back then that I had had the time and energy to invest in marketing them more
Sure.
because they're so unique. And every time I bring them to signings, people are like, what are these? I've never seen this. And they're like, oh my God, this
Yep.
is so genius. Like, I've never seen this before. And I was like, I know. So it's just kind of become like my thing, you know? And
Yeah.
I want to invest in other series,
Yep.
but I need to kind of like analyze the numbers a little bit more
Yep.
before I do that. But
For
I
sure.
love them. I think they're so
No,
cool.
they're the coolest things ever. I now film standing in front of my shelves, and
Mm-hmm.
without fail, I get a DM or a comment or something being
Mm-hmm.
like, "Are those records?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"They're audiobook records." Like, it's
Yes.
just my favorite comment to get.
Yeah.
They're the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
So, those are available on your website.
Yes,
Yes?
they are.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Amazing. So, if you have been wondering, as you've been watching my content, now you know. And be sure to check them out. So, I would love, let's chat a little bit about Blossom Peak, and then let's chat about it's about time. It is truly about time.
About time.
This episode's coming out on Wednesday, and it's about time will be out on Friday. So you have
Friday.
like time to
Mhm.
mark your calendar, get prepped, all that stuff. So could you, for anyone who doesn't know, give a brief overview of Blossom Peak? We talked about the winery a bit, but just your little elevator pitch.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to write is found family. And so my idea for Blossom Peak was a found family of 4 guy friends because I have another series called The Ladies Who Brunch that is a found family of 4 girlfriends. And so I hadn't written the 4 guys yet, and I was like, okay, I want to make this about the guys, and I want it to be about like really, you know, like men overcoming their struggles, not afraid to talk about their emotions, not
Yep.
afraid to go to therapy, you know, all that. So, book 1 is a brother's best friend, um, kind of like a friends to hate to lovers. So, these 4 guys became best friends when they were in high school, and they made like a pact to like always be there for each other and da da da. But part of the pact was never date each other's sisters. So obviously, one of the guys, Fletcher, forms like a secret friendship with one of the guy's sisters, Lainey. And they both had feelings for each other, but then he kind of broke her heart. And so she turned around from being friends with him to hating him. Well, he leaves to go to college, and then he ends up getting drafted to the NFL. So now he's like the small town hero that like made it big. He's a small town celebrity. Um, she owns the beauty salon in town, and no one is allowed to say his name in her beauty salon. And if
It's
they have to
iconic.
call him Lucifer, but if anybody says his name, they have to put $1 in the jar. So like she tries to protect her peace, right? Like
Of
nobody's going to
course.
mention Fletcher. So anyway, one of the guys in the group is getting married, and so Fletcher has to come back to town for the wedding, and
Sure.
Fletcher is the best man, and Lainey is the maid of honor. So now they're forced to spend time together, and it's making all of their old feelings resurface, and there's a little bit of a forbidden aspect and sneaking around and all
Love.
of that fun. So when I wrote that book, I originally had planned for one of the other guys to be the groom.
Oh.
And then when I was writing it and doing like my rewrites on it and stuff, I was like, wait, this doesn't work. Like it needs to be somebody else. So the groom in book 1 ends up being jilted. He gets left at the altar. And that ended up being our hero in It's About Time. That's coming out at the
Love
end
it.
of the week. Yes. So I have been building this story up for 3 books. And so my
Incredible.
readers were like feral and like foaming at the mouths because then it's like an enemies to lovers situation.
Love it.
And yeah, so one of the smartest creative decisions that I've made.
Yeah. Have people
and
on the
business
edge.
decision because like everybody's so excited for it,
Yeah.
and I've gotten really great feedback on it. They're like, "Oh my God, this book was so worth the wait. Like you did a great job." I was like, "Thank you." Because you build up a couple
Sure.
and then you really worry about like disappointing readers, like, "Oh my God, is this book going to be everything that they're anticipating?" So yeah, it's been fun to write these men, and I think I kind of flexed my rom-com chops a little bit in this series.
Yes.
Great laugh out loud moments, but I try to incorporate comedy in all of my stories, but I feel like this series I really like nailed
Yes.
it, so I'm really proud of this series. This was the series that like I was releasing during my last year of teaching, and I was like, okay, like this is the deciding factor. Like, can I really walk away from this job, and luckily, yeah, it's been great. So I'm really proud of it, and I'm really excited for the last book to come out on Friday.
I am so excited, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like, can you read it as a standalone? Sure. Is the payoff better if you've read the whole thing?
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah, and I think I put a little note on my Amazon thing that was like book 4 is best enjoyed if you've read books 1 through 3, because I built up this enemies to lovers couple from book 1. Like I was getting DMs like 2 chapters into book 1. People were like, please tell me that Dylan and Elliot get a story. And I was like, I'm not saying anything. But yeah, so no, they do.
What can people expect from On Borrowed Time and Test of Time while they read through?
Okay, so On Borrowed Time is Henley and Elodie's story. Henley finds out that he has a kid that he didn't know about, and the mom drops off the baby to him. So the baby's like 3 months old.
I love this one.
And then he decides to hire a nanny because he has no idea what he's doing. And so this girl comes into his business, and she's there to interview for a waitress job, but like she has a connection with his daughter, and he's like, hey, why don't you be my nanny instead? And so it is just all of the single dad forced proximity deliciousness that you could want. That was the easiest book to write in the series for me. It poured out of me. I loved the characters. And Connor Crace and Vanessa Edwin did the audio, and it's one of my favorite audiobooks that I've had produced. It is phenomenal.
What a lineup.
Phenomenal. And then Test of Time is Ronan and Vienna's story. Ronan is Lainey's brother. So Lainey from book 1, it's her brother. He is a single dad and he's a widower. And then he goes out with Elliot one night because Elliot's having a little bit of a problem. And so he's like, okay, let's go. I'll be your wingman. And he has a connection with this woman, and that hasn't happened for him since he lost his wife. But then she ghosts him in the bar. And so he kind of like has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because of it.
Sure.
But then he finds out that she's his daughter's substitute teacher and his next door neighbor. When her dog breaks into his yard.
Amazing.
So yeah, so there's lots of, like tension and banter back and forth and, forced proximity and all of the things. So that one, I actually put a little bit of like a romantic suspense element into that book too. So which readers really loved.
I love it. Always keeping it fun and fresh for people. Well, diving into It's About Time, what are your favorite qualities of Dylan and Elliot?
So Dylan is probably one of my favorite FMCs that I have written. She is a mechanic.
Okay.
And so, her best friend Lainey owns the beauty salon, and then Dylan is a mechanic who doesn't give a shit about like her nails and her hair, and all of that stuff. And
Amazing.
so I love the dichotomy between those two characters. They're so opposite. She is a badass. She doesn't care about what people think about her. She's not afraid to, state her opinions.
Yep.
And part of that is because, she has been in a male dominated field and she's liked things that are different than most other girls her entire life.
Yep.
And so she has a little bit of a guard up, to protect herself. But, and then, Elliot has the same thing. He gets left at the altar by this woman that he thought was like his person. And Dylan and Elliot don't really like each other. They have this banter from book one, right? But turns out that like they've both suffered from heartbreak. So Dylan, had her heart broken when she was younger, and it really did a number on her.
Mm.
And so when she sees Elliot and what he goes through, she feels for him. And so she shows up for him. And no one else really knows about it except for Lainey. So she, takes him to a junkyard to beat up a car that looks like his ex's. She brings him food, she makes sure that he showers. She actually hoses him down on his couch first, and then she tells him to get in the shower.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I mean, she's not soft with him,
Sure.
she gives him the tough love that he really needs in that moment. But
Yep.
it's so perfect for their relationship that you understand, like, that's how it should be between those two characters.
Hmm.
One of my favorite things about writing enemies to lovers is when they start to realize that like this other person is really not all as bad as they've painted them out to be, in
Yeah.
their mind. And so writing that transition when they start to really understand each other was one of my favorite parts of that book. But you have this fake engagement in the background because Elliot's former fiance comes back into town. And so Tori's like, oh, hell no. Like, I have helped this man pick himself up. She
Yep.
is not coming back in. And then Dylan has to see her ex for the first time at like this car show that she's
Yep.
entering. And so they're like, you know what? Let's be each other's buffer. We'll pretend like we're fake engaged.
Yep.
It'll keep both of them away. And then they end up falling for each other. And it's so fun. It's so fun. It's like everything that you want from like an enemies to
Yes.
lovers fake dating situation.
I am truly over the moon. And it has felt like both of them are slow to trust and are like very much so building that, at least throughout the series, building that back
Yes.
together. So
Yes.
I'm just so excited to see that on page, like over the moon. So
No, I'm proud of it. I feel like I did a good job.
yes, absolutely. Um, is there anything that we need to keep our eyes out for in this book about what might be coming next from you?
So I am infamous for leaving little cliffhangers at the end of my books for like the next book,
Yes.
right? But when I go and transition from series to series, I don't like to leave too much just in case I decide to change my mind. However, because I've done that before, I've written myself into a corner and I'm like, well, crap, this is how this has to work now. But toward the end of It's About Time, you are going to meet some of the characters from my next series in Garnet Valley. And it is a family series. It's 4 sisters and 1 brother. So you will meet some of the sisters. And I'm really excited about this new series. Like it's fun. It's got humor, but it's got heart. And like, I love building a family with like new family dynamics, and like things I haven't done before. And like I said, the community college at like the background of all of this is just so cool. It's so fun. I feel like I have so many options for things that I can incorporate into this new series. So yeah,
it's all happening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm so excited. And that's coming October. Yes.
October, yes. But you'll start seeing stuff pop up on my socials and stuff in August is when I'll start kind of introducing you to this new world.
Incredible. That is just so exciting.
It is. It's fun.
I have not mentioned this yet. And it's a really one-off, it's not that big of a deal. If I'm not mistaken, Elliot's pierced.
Oh, yes, he is. he gets this piercing as a way to see if it will help him move on
Sure.
from his jilting. And so then it becomes like a thing, and then the girls find out about it and they're like, oh my God. And then Dylan finds out about it and she's like, holy shit, like he got pierced. And then she's obsessed with figuring out what kind of piercing it is.
Yes. That's what I was hoping. I was like, I
Yeah.
think I saw this somewhere, but I might be
Yes.
making it up.
Yep.
We love to see we've seen this film from Harlow before, and it's been the best
Mhm.
film.
Right?
So
Yeah. Well, and I think it's funny because like there was somebody posted a review the other day and was like, damn, Harlow, like you're giving us like some crazy spice and like piercings and da-da. I'm like, it's small town. The options are endless, you know, like not every guy has to be pierced, but it's always fun to add
Sure.
that in, you know?
Yeah,
No, but it felt right for these characters. You know what I mean? Like I
totally.
wouldn't just do that for any character. It felt right
Yeah.
for Elliot and Dylan. And like, yeah, and the spice be spicing in this book. Yeah, it's good.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I was like reading through late last week, and I was like, I
Mhm.
have to try to remember to ask
Yeah,
her about this.
yeah.
That's amazing. Are there any other fun micro tropes or things that you had to throw in that you were like, thank God? That's kind of on the spot. And micro tropes are like,
I
they're
don't know.
micro. I don't
I
remember they're
know.
micro.
I mean, there is a one bed situation in the book,
Iconic.
so you know, in a hotel room, which is always
Yeah.
fun. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, one of the things that I love about their story, and it was actually one of my beta readers, her idea is that she sends him baked goods because he has a sweet tooth, but she has the baker put insults on the baked goods. So they're not
Not all that sweet.
right. So it's like on brand for their relationship, you know, like that. Yeah, that was a fun thing to do.
I love that. I just love the creative moments. I love a text thread. I just love any sort of banter. And there's no banter quite like enemies to lovers, and
And
there's
so,
really no banter like fake dating. Like it's just
yes.
like all of that wrapped into one just makes for the perfect storm, I feel
Yeah.
like. So I am just so excited to dive into that. What else do we need to know? Anything we're missing before heading into Friday?
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's available in all
Part of me is like,
formats.
part of me is kind of
Right.
sad that like the series is over. I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
I've been living in a new world for a while. I wrote this book back in like January, February, so
sure.
I'm like past it, you know.
Yeah,
But that's kind of what's fun about being ahead is then by
yeah.
the time like you're getting ready to promote the next book, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
and it's
forgot,
nice
you
to be
know.
back and everything. So,
I'm just so grateful to my readers, you know, for
yeah,
shipping this series as much as they have. Um, like I said, this was a series that I was like, okay, I know I can do this full time. You know, it
yeah,
really gave me that confidence. Um, and I'm excited for everybody to get the end, you know, and get this
yeah,
couple that they've been wanting for three
sure.
books. So, yeah.
It's so hard for me to leave towns I love, so I can
Mhm.
only imagine for authors. Do you have to like double mourn when you write, like finish the book and then when you promote the book and let it release? Or are you pretty emotionally moved on?
I'm usually like moved on by that
Yeah.
point. Yeah, I used to when I first started writing. I used to cry when I'd write like the last book
Yeah.
in a series. I don't do that so much anymore. I'll have moments when I cry like during writing, but
Sure.
like at the end of the series, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm ready to move on
Yeah.
from this world. Um, and Blossom Peak was always 4 books in my head. It was
Yeah.
never anything more than that, and
Yeah.
so when I know that that is the end of the series, it's a lot easier for me to be like, okay, this
Sure.
is tied up. We're done, you
Yep.
know?
You saw it
But then,
coming.
like I said, I get that excitement again, like when it again comes
Yeah.
time for the book to come out, where I'm like, oh, I'm so excited for people to get this, you
I
know?
love
So,
it. I
yeah.
love it. I am just so excited and thrilled. And where can people find you this year? Pick up their copies. You have your amazing website, by the way. If you just want
Yes.
to go look at a pretty website, go to
Oh my
Harlow
God.
James'
I
website.
love it.
Holy
So,
cow.
shout out to Jade M Design. She is
Yeah.
on Instagram. She made my website for me. Did my new
Unreal.
branding. She did my branding too. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm obsessed.
Yes.
Yeah, so I will be at a meet and greet cute in Knoxville
Woo.
at the end of the month, which I'm super excited for. That event was amazing last year, so I'm
Unreal,
really
yeah.
excited to return. I will also be in Love in Vegas in October. And then I
Okay.
get to do Indies Invade Philly in November, which I got invited to last summer.
Amazing.
And that's like a dream bucket list signing for me. Like I've always
Yeah.
wanted to go. So I'm really, really excited for that. Um, but other than that, I mean, I'm on all the
Yeah.
socials and on my website, you can order signed copies of the books. And um, I'm really active in like my Facebook group, and stuff like that, and my
Love it.
newsletter. So if you want to connect, I'm everywhere.
I love it. I really truly believe you're one of those authors that has something for everyone in terms of format, in terms of tropes, in terms of location. So if you are just looking to dive in, Harlow James is a top-notch spot to dive into anything,
Thank
in
you.
my
I
opinion.
appreciate that.
Yes, I really feel like you've got something for everyone. So, I am so grateful for your time and for you coming on during a busy release week, by the way, for a little peek behind the curtain. It's Monday. So you
I
have
know.
a book coming out. I just got back from France, which we'll talk about, in next week's episode for sure, when I'm solo. But I am so grateful that you were flexible on that schedule. And
Well, thank you for having me. This
oh
was
my
this
gosh.
was a blast. I love doing podcasts. I
Yes,
I haven't done one in a while,
I
so
love it.
I was really excited.
I'm so grateful that we were able to find the time because I'm just the biggest fan. And again, so pumped to see you later this month.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll wrap us up. Be sure to download on Friday, and we will see you all in the next one.
Thank you.